Cara Houser, welcome to Recruiting Insider.
Hi, Mary. So happy to be here.
Today, we're diving deep into the world of burnout and exploring how to rekindle our inner spark. I'm thrilled to have Cara join me. Cara is known as the Burnout Lady on LinkedIn, and she's a passionate advocate for helping individuals overcome burnout and create fulfilling lives and careers. Cara has a unique perspective on burnout, having experienced it firsthand. Her own personal journey, coupled with her professional expertise, has led her to develop a powerful approach to helping others find their way back to a more balanced and fulfilling existence. In today's episode, we'll discuss the root causes of burnout, the signs to watch out for, and practical strategies for overcoming it. We'll also explore how to create a life and career that truly lights you up. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired. So let's dive into the world of burnout and discover just how to rekindle our spark. So Cara, can you share a personal experience, with burnout and how it impacted your life?
Absolutely. And as you said in your beautiful intro, I got to learn about it the hard way, which is actually one of the main reasons why I have any clout to talk about it now. Because I've experienced all of its horrible depths. And in fact, my visit to burnout, well, it took years to get there, as it does for most of us. And I didn't actually kind of pause, realize what it was, and start to climb back out until an emergency, like a health emergency in my family happened. And so for a lot of folks, it's similar. It takes either something for themselves or a family emergency to have them just... It's a wake-up call. It's a moment of reckoning. It feels really, really bad in the moment. Horrible. I mean, for me, it was like ugly, crying, freak-out mode. And, looking back, I don't ever want to do that again. And it was a gift because I had to hit that breaking point in order to finally start to make some much-needed, pretty whole system shifts in my life. Mm-hmm.
What are some of the most common causes of burnout that you've observed in your work?
It's first of all, it's not something that's like a snap to get into, and it's not a snap to get out of. It's a series of, I call tiny self-betrayals, soul death by 1,000 tiny cuts. And it comes from trying to be everything to everyone except yourself for a really long time. And it's pretty gradual because as we start off as young adults at work, we think, we just got to work harder. We got to do more. We can never say no. What if we get fired? But we have to do every single thing and sacrifice. And when you're younger, it seems like no big deal to sacrifice your exercise, your whatever mental health practices, mindfulness, prayer, journaling that you have, time with friends and relatives. It seems like, well, I'll get to that some other time. Not realizing that those are actually all the ingredients and building blocks of a healthy, balanced life, frankly, worth living. and those are your guideposts towards getting you into doing exactly what you are meant to do, what you're passionate about, and what your gifts are. So one by one, we remove those, especially as we become much, much, much busier in life. Maybe we're in a relationship. We have kids. We're taking care of sick folks in our families, parents, spouses, who knows? All of these things come onto our plate, one after the other, more. And we think, well, I have to do it all. And so what we sacrifice is ourself. And eventually, over a period of years, very well intentioned, by the way, these are all like the best people, the best, most responsible, caring, hardcore, awesome people that are doing this. And those are the people that actually go down the hardest, because they will make those sacrifices until one day, you wake up in a pile of dust like I did. I'd been so fried for so long, I didn't even realize that I was, or that was my regular set point. That just felt like life to me until it all just came crumbling down. And so we don't view it as self-abandonment, but it is. And so that's why one of the things I talk about with folks as far as the trajectory It's from self-abandonment or self-neglect through self-care, which is important. It's just basics of how we take care of ourselves is how I define it. I don't define it as buying a bunch of crap the marketplace is selling us to sell us our health back in expensive and time-consuming ways. But it's more than that. It goes all the way to self-possession, where we get back in touch so hard and strong with our core, what we're about, what matters to us in this world, that making decisions as to how to spend our time, energy, money, whatever, comes so much more naturally and easily. And we're not just spinning around in these little anxious bundles trying to, do what everyone else in society expects of us. And finally get clear on what on earth do we expect? What does success mean to us? What's happiness to us? And start putting our energy and attention towards that.
Yeah, I feel like you're speaking directly to my soul. And that's one thing that really attracted me to your profile was I experienced some burnout myself this summer. I don't know that it was to the extent you experienced it. But, I feel like I've been sprinting in my own business for the last 7 to 8 years. And, I feel like I need to do it. I'm the face of the business. If I don't keep going, if I don't do these things, then everything's going to crumble, and I know that that's not the right mindset to have, and really every minute of it. So I'm not complaining. I absolutely love what I do. I don't get those Sunday scaries where I'm sitting there on the weekend like, oh my gosh, I don't want to go back to work. I love it. It's like every day is a Saturday. But the truth really is, for me, I took on too many new projects this year, and it was just too much. I hit a wall, and usually I can kind of push through that. I can get those boxing gloves out and break down the wall, and I couldn't this time. I felt tired, where I'm super motivated. I felt anxious, which I don't usually feel. I felt unmotivated. Those are feelings that I'm just not used to dealing with. And it got to the point where it was like anytime I received an email, my entire body would tense up. I'm like, oh, there's more work. And as someone who really kind of thrives on like getting shit done, really, I didn't like this feeling like at all. And so I liked what you said about getting back in touch with our core. What are some ways that we can get in touch with our core? Even prior to answering that, maybe what are some of the signs and symptoms of burnout that we can recognize in ourselves or in others?
All those signs that you just described, absolutely spot on. And I think a lot of people will relate. It's exhaustion that's not fixed with a nap, or it's almost like soul exhaustion, which kind of is where the anxiety comes in. They're sort of just losing. We get to a point where we're just doing stuff, and we're super capable people. You're not the only one putting stuff on your to-do list. The world is putting stuff on your to-do list. I mean, your church volunteer community. People are like, she can do stuff. The next thing you know, you're just doing stuff. You're getting signed up for things. And, because you want to be, you're doing things at the school for the kids. You're doing, and you think, well, they need me. Okay, yes, and you know who else needs you? You. So this is just a common misunderstanding we have, is that we don't require any maintenance or fuel. I mean, even a car requires maintenance and fuel. We just think that we don't. And so all those signs that you said are right on. Another one is super short temper, snapping at people. Like when you find that your little fuse to the point where you are just pissed at people, I'm like, what did they really do? Then, okay, that's an issue. Now, if you have a real beef with someone, cool, you go deal with that. But if you find that you're just snapping over stuff that's not highly relevant, and then the other one I talk about a lot, that this is the one that surprises people all the time, and it's an early sign, and it's the loss of sense of humor. It's the loss of connection to joy in what you even think is fun or relaxing anymore. And this is why a lot of folks end up in therapy or with a coach, and sometimes the therapist or the coach will be like, well, you just need to relax. You should do stuff that's relaxing. And the person, if you're me anyway back then, and people now are like, what? Hey, I don't even know what you're saying. Like, I haven't accessed that state in so long. I remember a therapist years ago just being like, go get a smoothie. I was like, a smoothie? Ew. She's like, do this, do that. And I was like, everything sounds terrible that you're saying. Every single thing that you're saying, I hate it. And I just didn't. But the thing is, that's a real bad warning sign, because that meant that I was not connected to myself. When you are really aligned with your core and doing stuff that you want to do, that you're passionate about and love for the sake of it, you do know what you find relaxing. I just put a post on LinkedIn this week about how, like, I love the fall season. Oh my God. I just sink into all the stuff about it. Like, I enjoy it. I find it relaxing. I know that about myself. Like, I have an answer. And when you're burned out and people ask you simple preferences, do you have a favorite season? Food? And you're like, I don't know. People used to ask me what I did for fun. And I would just think, what a stupid question. Like, I hate that. And I don't have time to sleep. And I don't have time for that. And yeah, I don't know what kind of life you live. But of course, that's an insanely, heartbreakingly essential question to have a ready answer to. Because when you do know the answer to that, you know yourself. You're connected to yourself. And only when you're connected to yourself in that way can you connect in any real ways to others.
Yeah.
Authentic ways.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just a little pleaser. You're just, who are you? So when you're real, then you have those real relationships. And again, it's easy to decide who you're in relation with. You know who you vibe with.
I'm sitting over here like, yeah. Because I actually had this conversation with my husband over the summer. I love working. That's what I do for fun. I don't have any hobbies outside of that. Anytime he's like, well, we could do this or we could do that. And I'm like, no, that doesn't sound like fun. And that was one of the big bells that went off in my head for the first time, where I'm like, what's going on, inside of me, where it's like, I can't figure out what is fun to me anymore. Do I want to go to a movie? Do I want to go on a walk? And I couldn't nail that down. And it was really, it was kind of scary. When's the last time that I actually had fun? I couldn't really think of a time. So I went on a friend trip. It was 4 couples and we went without kids. And I was like, oh, I can have fun. This is what it's like. I put work down. I put my phone down. And I think that for me, that was a big part of it, was the constant dinging on my phone was just like making that anxiety creep up. You have to look inside and you have to take care of yourself and figure out what brings you joy before you can bring that to other people.
And when we do, this is what it means to fill your own cup, and what it means that you can't pour from an empty cup. Of course you can't. If you're a miserable, fried, exhausted, impatient person, how are you going to show love, care, fun, patience, engagement, creativity, whatever, to all the stuff that you care about, your work and your family? I don't do good work when I'm in that state, even though, we'd like to think more is better, more.
Yeah, I know.
Sometimes just taking that break makes us come back to our work and be like, haha, the solution is there. I've gotten enough space in my head that my creative wheels are now able to turn again. I love that you did that, and that you found, that you could find, pretty readily, that you were able to reconnect. And I also love that you're mentioning about technology, which I'm not going to bash necessarily. I'm just going to suggest that people do kind of what you are suggesting, which is put some guardrails around it. Just notice, how's this making me feel? If this is actually stoking a constant flame of anxiety, I'm just going to put it so that I check with a certain, periodically or whatever. Like, just put it in some healthy guardrails so that you can have some peace and some presence and some ability and space to do other stuff that matters. So back to you now. When you thought about what you like and what you enjoy, what else has come to mind?
I'm an active person. I like to be outdoors, and I like reading, and I like writing. And I've been saying for a long time, like, I should get into meditating and journaling and doing all these things. The first thing that I had kind of deprioritized in my life that I love to do is read. So that's one thing that I brought back in. Like, when I'm finishing up work and transitioning from work to life, since I work from home, I'll take a 20-minute window and I'll read, and I'll put the phone in another room, turn it off so that I can't hear it. I'm not even thinking about it. I have personally found that even if it's in the same room as me, I'm going to check it. So it needs to be in a different room. It needs to be faced the other way or completely turned off. Another thing that you mentioned too is how that mental exhaustion of burnout affects you physically as well. And it was something that I didn't see in the moment, but at the end of the day, it was like I would lay on the couch and I didn't have any energy left. That's no life to live. And I never neglected myself to the point where I didn't go to the gym. I'm an avid gym goer. If I don't move my body every day, I go nuts.
Me too.
So I've always kept that in my routine, but that mental exhaustion and the physical exhaustion by the end of the day was just overwhelming.
So I have some thoughts on energy, and I'm so happy that you raised that as just kind of a theme of its own and how it intersects with burnout. Part of the way we get there is that we only give our time and energy to stuff that doesn't really give it back. And so it is just like pouring the cup out and then now there's nothing in there. And so one of the reasons why it's important to have these practices that involve enjoyment, fun, whatever you want to call it, some flow state, our creative side of us, whatever, is that those are the sorts of things that feed energy back. And so it's really important to have in our routine, and your exercise routine, does at some level. All exercise does. It actually does offer that back to some degree. But if you're still finding that you're just completely depleted at the end of the day, then it's time to do a little audit, a little mini audit of the day. And I have people just write down all the stuff they do on a typical weekday and a typical weekend day, stuff that is absolutely essential, like eating, gets, exempted out from this conversation because that's not that just has to be there.
Yeah.
Other stuff, though, that isn't essential, that's all fair game on the chopping block. And we look at all that stuff and we look at it through the lens of, does this give energy or does it take it? And what people will often find when they're in burnout or on the way is that most of their day is filled with stuff that takes it. And it's hidden stuff too, like social media scrolling, endlessly, over a certain period of time. Maybe dealing with certain relationships or people that they've decided they have to, but maybe they don't. Maybe certain, quote, obligations that actually aren't, if given a deeper look. And so the exercise in its simplest form is to take something that gives energy and bring it to the very top of the priority list and experiment just given that space on a regular basis for a little while, like a month, and then just see how that shifts your life. And I'm not even telling you necessarily to pick an energy taker to pop off, because sometimes that people can resist that. It's more like just pick the one that gives. And by the way, if there's nothing on your schedule that gives it, there's a secondary activity of brainstorming around what could bring me any form of enjoyment whatsoever. And then what have I done and what am I dreaming of could be cool that I could invite and offer in. And I just want it at the top, because that way at the end of the day, when you run out of time and stuff falls off the list, the thing that falls off, it's not the core stuff that you need to survive. I mean, and if people want like stats, just go to the Mayo Clinic. They talk all about how laughter, humor, joy, fun, these are actually things that we have to support our mental and physical health. And they are absolutely intertwined. And we can feel the tension in our body when we're ignoring it, in our mind and our emotions. I mean, Stanford University has a whole course on humor for their business students because it's apparently quite important for business and life success. So when this is not frivolous, and it gets chopped off as something that just doesn't seem essential, as we think, I have to do responsible adulting things. I have to do this 50th chore. Okay, well, maybe you do, but long term, what's going to actually point you in, what's actually going to build a foundation and fortify you for the life you actually mostly want to live, that really inspires you?
Yeah, humor is so important. I mean, in my own life, I love to bring humor into, a lot of the things that I do, and it makes me happy. When you're stressed out, when you're burnt out, when you don't know what makes you happy, what makes you excited anymore, humor is one of the first things to go.
And if you don't know those things, you can't do them. And if you can't do them, that's not a practice. It's not part of your life. I mean, happiness isn't just something that pops by. It's a practice of doing things that you enjoy and with people you enjoy, in environments that you enjoy.
You have to figure out how to connect with yourself so that you can connect with others. And a way that you can do that, you mentioned, is finding something that you truly enjoy, that's fun, and prioritize that. What are some other ways that we can figure out how to really connect with ourselves?
If we start even like kind of a step zero before that, for a lot of people, again, they're going to be like, I don't even know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like I've mined the upper regions of my brain. There's nothing in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So that for me and for a lot of clients has meant you got way too much, you're at full capacity. There's just not a lot of space. And one of the simplest things people can do is to build in, and this is very simple, it doesn't cost any money or very much time. And so that's just like taking a morning walk or midday, whatever.
Yeah.
A little walk, like 15 minutes outside without anything in your ears. Which, by the way, I do love walking with audiobooks or running, like
Same.
Generally speaking. So like that's awesome, and I think this is cool. But for the purposes of what we're talking about right now, making space in your head, instead of just putting more stuff in, just allowing yourself to have that little bit of space and silence outside while you're walking will actually, over a little bit of time, create enough space that little ideas and thoughts and notions from your intuition will begin to bubble up. I encourage folks to do with like a little notebook and pencil in their pocket or their notes app or whatever on their phone, so that when one of those little nuggets of amazing intuition and kind of whatever their core is trying to tell them comes, they can capture it.
Yeah.
Write it down. And over time, you'll start to notice some themes and some patterns. And it's just, we get out of practice. We get so in our heads, especially in the US. Everything is very like pro and con. Write it down. Think it through. There's not a whole lot of respect and space for like, I actually might have some inner guidance here that might be able to take me somewhere, because that is how I do know myself, actually. I know myself better than this lady on Instagram. Okay. So there's information available to me, which is why in the journey of burnout, in the book, there's 3 basic components. 1, make space. And there's some stuff in that bucket. Then there's rebuilding with mindsets, practices, and habits that actually serve us. And then there's sustaining those gains with resilience and joy. But the making space bucket, we make space in our physical realm first. And that's because it's an easy win. We gain some momentum. It's super visual, what we've accomplished. Anyone who's ever Marie Kondo purged a room can know that this is like a magical thing. This woman is a genius, and that's why she's famous. Like, it's real. And when you make space in your physical realm, you actually start to crack it open in your head. It's really true. So it's step 1. And then we make space in our mental, in our minds, with this kind of like walking that we're talking about. You could have a mindfulness practice, journaling, prayer. There's a lot of ways to just allow some mental space to start to grow. And then we make space in very practical ways on our schedules. And that has a whole component around boundary setting, because many, many burned out people, myself included, earlier on, did not have high level of skill in that department. And that's simply a life skill we're going to have to get our little arms around if we want to move forward towards living a lit up, rich, vibrant life, true to ourselves.
One thing that I did from a business perspective was I decided, okay, it's time to outsource some work. I'm a solopreneur, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate. Even if you're not a business owner, there may be different things that you can outsource that can really bring back some time to help you make space, both mentally and physically. So I had mentioned before the podcast, when we were chatting, had decided to hire an editor for my podcast, right? That was one thing where I was doing everything for the podcast, which is amazing, but sometimes you just need to learn, okay, I could have some help with that. I had spoken with somebody that came on my podcast, Maya Grossman. We were talking about virtual assistants, and it was something that had been on my mind for a couple of years. She made an introduction and I hired a virtual assistant. So I've taken the steps that I should have taken probably years ago, start making some of that space in my own life and, my own mind, to be able to, rekindle that joy, to figure out, okay, what is important to me in my life. And, my family is really important, and they were getting neglected. If I'm being, honest, I was focusing 98.9% of my energy on my business. And, yes, that's important, but so is my family. The second one was the rebuilding phase. So can you talk about that just a little bit more?
Mm-hmm. First of all, I just want to applaud you because there are so many ways people can apply the concept that you said. Just simply this asking for help thing is something burned out people often seriously have no concept of. People think, I got to do it all myself. I'm an independent person. Okay, cool. And we're all humans, and we all have to have a support system in whatever that means. And sometimes that help is something very tactical, like you're talking about. Sometimes it's just reaching out to our friends in more vulnerable ways, trusted people we know who can hold what we're needing to share and ask for support with. I mean, sometimes it's help with decluttering. I mean, there are entire professions of people who will come to your house and organize all your stuff and help coach you through getting rid of it and just doing right? There's a lot of wonderfulness out there when we open our eyes to that possibility. Okay, so rebuilding. Once we've made all this great space in our minds, in our spaces, in our schedules, in our energy field, all of it, then we actually have some space to now start filling in. And so which is why, a lot of things you'll read about burnout are like, try this, add this, do that. And people are thinking, are you nuts? I literally don't even, when? So we address that. So we add in, so it's a series of mindsets. And the ones that I talk about are growth mindset versus fixed. A lot of folks know that.
Yeah.
Should versus choose.
Yeah.
And a sabbatical style mindset and way of being. And all that really means is we can have the lifestyle and peace that we want right here and right now. And we don't have to go eat, pray, love it. Although if you want to eat, pray, love for a year, you should totally go do that. But you don't have to. You don't have to just throw it all in the can and live in a cave. So it's knowing that this is all accessible to us. We actually have inside of us right now what we need. And then there's a whole section around habits. And this is very just tactical, practical, on feet on the ground stuff. What do I do in the morning when I wake up? Does it set me up for a successful day, mentally, physically, whatever? Generally start there with folks, because even though it seems so obvious and kind of annoyingly obvious, most people aren't really doing it. And it moves the needle so hard. It basically helps us understand that we can build new habits. We actually can change some thought patterns and mindsets that haven't been serving us. And if we make it easier on ourselves, our human brains like things to just be the same all the time because that requires less energy. So we just kind of shuffle along. Any kind of change, habit change, if you want to go from waking up first thing and looking at your phone and deciding that the world is coming to an end and then having a shitty day, well, switching from that into completely self-possessed and more powerful mode of, I'm going to wake up and every single day I'm going to go for that walk and then I'm going to do some journaling, for example. One physical and one mental space thing. I'm going to do those two things. I'm going to have a big glass of water first, and then I'm going to do those things. And I'm just really basic stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm going to write that down, and I'm going to put it right by my bed. And I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to fight with my brain, my habits. I'm just going to commit to every day. That's what I do, unless I'm super sick or something. Most of the days I do it. And at the end of 30 days, the most amazing thing is now you don't have to fight about it anymore. But you have actually created a really healthy habit that will now give you energy, that sends you into your day feeling like, haha, I can do something. I'm feeling kind of positive. I feel like I could smile at the guy on the bus. I could actually, I have some space and some power and some autonomy to dive into this day in a way that feels right to me. So it's really simple. And then once we kind of lay that groundwork, we have fortified ourselves to tackle some of these maybe tougher passages. And it's all very gradual. So The bad news is, again, it takes a little while kind of rebuild this new pathway. The good news is it's so doable.
Yeah.
And actually even friendly and gradual. It's a step-by-step thing. And the more you kind of step out into the horizon, the more the horizon opens. So possibilities, ideas you had never seen before will open to you as you move in and forward.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing. And people who, I work with are a little skeptical at first. They're like, well, why can't I see it now? And then they start to move into it. And they're like, oh my God, I just had all this, like this inspiration of something that had never literally occurred to me. Or, I decided to actually talk to the guy I was sitting next to. And I had the coolest conversation and idea from him, right? So there's just a lot out there available to us outside of our really blindered, burnout-y field of vision, which gets pretty small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It actually reminded me of, the book that I started reading was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Have you read that one?
Yes, I have. We can't control every single thing in the outside world. We actually can't control anyone that's not ourselves. But being able to control our own thoughts, habits, actions, mindset, decisions on who to spend time with and what we do.
Yeah.
Like that's actually all the power we need.
Yeah.
It is enough to think about. And it is so, so powerful to know just how much can shift in our lives once we really take ownership for that. I mean ownership, like responsibility for every single choice that we make. Instead of being like, well, I had to. Well, there's very few things we have to do in exactly a certain way if we allow ourselves to ask the question, why? What might be a healthier choice for me that I feel good about in my body, in my heart? And it takes us out of kind of blamey victim mode, which I've spent some time in.
Oh, yeah. Haven't we all?
Where I was like so miserable in a job I had, years and years ago. And I just thought, man, this person's a pain and this is annoying and this is this. And, and just, although some of the thoughts I had probably had some merit, it didn't ultimately, that isn't a helpful way of thinking. Because that doesn't help me do anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't help me to make a decision of how to approach a situation differently, how to have a hard conversation, how to maybe make a change, how to leave if I needed to, how to go find a new opportunity, how to show up as the kind of person that I really wanted to be. And those are the things that I and all of us 100% have control over.
Yeah. The last piece that you mentioned, which was really sustaining those gains with resilience and joy. I think that can also lead into how we can really discover our true purpose and how that aligns with not only our work, but with our life goals. So can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
It was really essential to me to have a big hunk of attention given to this, because a lot of things we do, like we go off and we have an experience, even a transformational one, but we don't really figure out how to really seed that in to who we are. So we've had a shift in our whole way of being. And so it becomes this thing in our history of this, experience I once had of lit up joy and self-possession, like, okay, now it's over. Like the minute any life stressors come to you, which they will, people die, stressful stuff happens, we lose jobs, it's going to happen, okay? And when it does, you need to make sure that we're ready, not in an armed way, but ready in like a relaxed and ready way, because we're totally fortified and we're ready, and we can show up, and we know that we can deal with it. We just know we have faith that we can, and we acknowledge that we can. So that's one of the reasons why too, all throughout the book, each chapter has reflection activity questions at the end, which are strongly encouraged. Because that's how you take it from like, okay, this is all this information and tools and insights and stories that I'm reading, but this is how the most important thing is how it applies to the reader. And the way to actually make those things apply and manifest in our lives is to really take the time to reflect. So I suggest folks do like a chapter a week, really take time to do those, and then use it as kind of a system that builds on itself. And likewise, all the way at the very end, we talk about resilience and gaining comfort with change, which of course is the only constant of life. It's so annoying.
Yeah, right?
Like, it's like the minute you think, like, if you're a parent, like, you're like, man, I've got this 6-year-old kid thing down. Like, I know what works with 6-year-old. Then your kid's 7, and it's totally different. And you're like, oh my God, am I at square one? Why am I so bad at this? So it's like anything in life. You just learning how to be kind of adaptable and almost just enjoy yourself through the adaptation is really important. So we talk about that. We talk about joy, which we have already, and how essential that is. And the other thing that I kind of throw in there at the end is this notion of an accountability system and partner. And that's really helpful too. So any time we're going through something in life that feels like a hard change, a change that's going to be multi-step and multi-month, it's really helpful to find someone, whether it's a friend, a trusted family member, a coach, a therapist, I don't know, someone out there in this world who's on the team. Not someone who's going to judge you or have a lot of other weird suggestions for stuff you should do. Someone who is on the team and you'll know who it is, because as you start to share what you're doing, you're gonna see what their responses are. Find out really fast, like who's really supportive of what's happening. And when you find that, if you can find someone like that who you feel really comfortable with, that will check in with you in not naggy, but just really healthy and helpful ways, and who you can return the favor to, right? Because that person's doing stuff too, and that you can support each other's growth and inspiration through life is just so essential. And like you said at the very beginning, none of us is doing this completely alone. And if we are, A, it's lonely, and B, it's going to be a long slog, okay?
Yeah.
Because one person doesn't know everything. And if you want to learn everything yourself, want every bit, and I mean, you can, yes, you could, but
thank you.
It's just not, it's going to take, like, why? It could be so much better.
Yeah. Totally agree. So what's your final message for listeners who may be struggling with burnout or seeking a more fulfilling life?
You have every single thing you need inside you to do this. The biggest, number one step for you is to know that that's true and to take the first step. And a really easy first step is choose something that feels healthy and right to you to do today, and spend a little bit of time doing that. Even just that one little move will get you just that one little step forward. And go out and find the support, system that vibes with you. There's a lot of books on burnout. If you vibe with what we're talking about, mine could be a good match for you. But there's so many supports and so many people talking about this in really, I think, helpful, healthy, and inspiring ways right now. Go out and get yourself the support you need and know that you have it within you to do it.
Awesome. Cara, where can we find you on social media?
Most of the time I'm on LinkedIn. So most weekdays, and I am less on Instagram, but there's sometimes. And then my website, carahouser.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much. I loved it.